Even at the time, this year's trade deadline for the Dallas Mavericks had a real case for being the worst deadline in the history of the league. But now, just over a month since, no other deadline disaster class is even in the same conversation as Dallas.
I just say there's levels to it.
It just keeps getting worse and worse. Now, Anthony Davis looked really good in his first game with the team. He dropped 26 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 blocks. Unfortunately, however, in that same game, he suffered an injury that caused him to miss the past month. Then just days later, Kyrie Irving suffers a torn ACL, an injury that not only destroys the championship hopes for Dallas this season, but most likely next year as well, the final year of his current contract. This is definitely the best time of year for basketball fans. We've got the NCAA tournament going on right now, and the NBA playoffs are just around the corner. This also makes it the perfect time to check out today's sponsor, PrizePicks, a sports pick'em platform where you just choose more or less on pretty much any player stat from every sport, and you can win up to 1,000 times your entry. Most of the time, PrizePicks also has different promos going on. For tonight's Duke vs Arizona game, they have a free square for Cooper Flagg. He only has to get a single point. Obviously, that's the first thing going in my entry. I paired it with Caleb Love's points on the other side of that game, then added in Derek Queen and Walter Clayton. If it all happens, my $20 becomes $200. They also have a promo for my viewers. If you sign up with the link in the description and use the code JIMMER when you sign up, after you play your first entry of at least $5, they're going to hook you up with $50 instantly. Thank you PrizePicks for sponsoring today's video. On the other side of this deal, it's a completely different story. The Lakers are 11-6 with Doncic on the court. He has them continuing to push up the Western Conference standings, and they're starting to emerge as a real title contender. Currently, the Vegas books have them tied for the 4th best odds, only behind OKC, Boston, and Cleveland. Luka looks healthy. He's averaging 27, 9, and 8. This trade, even without considering the injuries in Dallas, isn't less absurd today than it was when it happened. But to add insult to injury, the other trade that Nico Harrison made at the deadline is looking just as bad. He decided to send Quentin Grimes in a second rounder to the Philadelphia 76ers for Caleb Martin. Now, in the defense of Nico Harrison, at the time of the deal, it really didn't seem too crazy. They were both 3-and-D wings with pretty similar production on the season so far. Grimes was younger, but only had 1 year left on his contract, compared to Martin, who had 3 and had proven himself in a playoff setting. The trade felt unnecessary, but again, not ridiculous. Jumping forward to today, however, that trade looks about as one-sided as it gets. I'm surprised they're still allowing Nico Harrison in the building. Caleb Martin has flat out not played well since getting to Dallas. He's averaged less than 4 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists, shooting 39% from the field and 17% from 3. But even if Martin was posting similar production to what we're used to, we would still be talking about this deal given what we're seeing from Quentin Grimes. Grimes has had an interesting path to where he is today. While for most of his NBA career, he's just been looked at as a solid 3-and-D player, when he came out of high school in 2018, the expectations were a lot different. He was ranked the 2nd guard and 8th overall player in the country. Going into his freshman year at Kansas, he was heavily involved in first-round draft conversations, something that seemed like a guarantee after the first few games of the season. His collegiate debut was nothing short of remarkable. Going up against a top team in the country at the time in Michigan State, he went out there and dropped 21 points and 4 assists, shooting 7 for 14 from the field and knocking in 6 of his 10 attempts from outside. In the very next outing, he showed a different side of his game. He only scored 10 points, but went 4 for 8 from the field and added on 10 assists. After that start, he skyrocketed up the draft board. He was now being looked at as a possible top 5 selection, and it's easy to see why. He was a defensive-minded top recruit with a solid frame that through the first 2 games appeared to have a special combination of high-volume perimeter shooting and playmaking. Now, unfortunately, come the end of that season with Kansas, the sentiment surrounding him had pretty much flipped on its head. That 21 points in the very first game would end up being his season high. Additionally, he would never come close to that 10 assist mark against Vermont. He ended the year with averages of just 8 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists, shooting 38% from the field and 34% from 3. Production that put him completely out of draft conversations. So in an effort to revive it, during that summer he would transfer to the University of Houston. As a sophomore, we saw some improvement. He went to 12 points on 44-33 splits, but it really wasn't until his junior season where things really started to go back in the right direction. He averaged 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 assists, shooting 40% from 3 while taking over 8 attempts a game. Anytime a player that's a positive on the defensive end is able to shoot with that kind of efficiency and volume from distance, there will almost always be opportunity available at the next level. Grimes declared for the draft and was selected by the Clippers with a 25th pick before being traded on draft night to the Knicks. He went on to put together a really solid rookie year. He averaged 6 points, almost entirely coming from 3, where he shot 38%. Then in his second season, the Knicks went from missing the play-in to the 5th seed in the East, and Grimes was a significant part of that. He became a full-time starter and on the year averaged 11 points, a number that doesn't really paint the full picture. Given what we're seeing right now with Grimes, it's interesting looking back at how he closed that season. Over the final 9 games of the year, he averaged 22 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists, shooting 54% from the field and 48% from 3. In just his second season, he was showing a special ability both on and off the ball. It looked like he was going to be a huge part of the Knicks' future. So much so that when the Knicks were involved in tons of different trade rumors, most notably for Donovan Mitchell, we got several reports that Grimes was being pegged as untouchable by New York, a designation that wasn't even given to their recent 3rd overall selection RJ Barrett. Now unfortunately, Grimes' 3rd season didn't pan out as they hoped. Instead of building on that really strong end of the year, he actually regressed. After the first 18 games, where he was averaging just 6 points, shooting only 36% from the field, he was booted from the starting lineup in favor of Dante DiVincenzo. Come the NBA trade deadline, he went from untouchable, someone they were unwilling to include in a potential Donovan Mitchell trade, to being sent to the Pistons along with Evan Fournier and 2nd-round picks for veteran depth additions Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks. His time in Detroit was rough. He only played in 6 games where he averaged 5 points before being shut down for the rest of the year to rehab a lingering knee injury. During that summer, he was traded once again, this time to the Mavericks for Tim Hardaway Jr. and 3 second-rounders. Finally healthy once again, he was starting to look like that Grimes of old. He was a solid 3-and-D presence and was also able to step up as injuries hit the roster.
Grimes with the slam over Cornette.
Going into the deadline, he was averaging 10 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists, shooting 40% from 3. But despite there being really no reason to trade him at all, he was moved for the 3rd time in just a year. Nico Harrison decided he wanted to play 2K My GM, and following the infamous Luka trade, as mentioned, Grimes was sent to Philly. Pretty much immediately, this looked like a massive mistake. For the first time in his career, Grimes was in a situation where he was healthy and in a spot where he was going to have a big role and a lot of freedom in the offense. His first few games came off the bench, 14 against Detroit, 10 against the Bucks, 13 against Toronto. But then against Brooklyn, he was inserted into the starting lineup where we got a glimpse of what was to come.
Finds the interception, gets it up ahead for Grimes on the slam. Grimes rises and connects for Philly. 3 to shoot, Grimes over a double team, knocks it through.
He dropped 30 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists, going 10 for 18 from the field. We didn't see too much over the next few games, but then to open the month, a different Grimes emerged.
Point lead. Great hesitation that time by Grimes, and he gets in the lane.
Couple of those the other night in Orlando. He is absolutely starting to get...
Driving, pulling up, Grimes. Grimes with 1, gets a good look, and he drills it.
You have to trust guys on the other side of the floor.
Grimes. Court, challenged by Pajemski, counted and a foul. Midway through the 2nd quarter. Grimes attacking, counted.
Grimes single-handedly takes down the red-hot Golden State Warriors. He drops 44 points, shooting 18 for 24 from the field and 6 for 9 from 3. Since then, it's pretty much been a perfect storm for him to take over. Paul George got shut down for the rest of the season, and Maxey hasn't played since the 4th of March. Just 2 games after going off against Golden State, he drops 30 against Minnesota. A few games after that, he drops 29 against Toronto, then 28 against his former team in the Mavericks. Then the very next day against Houston, he goes nuclear once again. He gets things going with some nice baskets off the ball.
A number of different bodies, like nice backdoor.
Then in the 4th quarter and overtime just takes over.
Make it 26 for Grimes all the way to the, like all the Rockets did in the 3rd. Might have gotten away with a foul there.
Oh,
it is Grimes.
Get it out of his hands, have someone else beat you.
He
continues to be in prime rebounding position.
He's got another.
He dropped a career-high 46 points to go along with 13 boards and 3 assists. He knocked in 15 of his 27 shots and 7 of his 13 threes. Over the last few games since then, the success has continued. In the month of March so far, he's averaging 28 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, shooting 52% from the field and 40% from 3. Now, while the 76ers undoubtedly won this trade, there is no question about that, Grimes might be playing a little bit too good. The Sixers would have definitely preferred for this breakout to come at some point down the road compared to right now, because as we mentioned, this is the final year of his rookie contract. He'll be a restricted free agent. They can match any offer in free agency, but that price just got a whole lot more expensive. Not ideal for a team whose books are already in a very tough spot. But whether he stays in Philly or not, that doesn't change Dallas's outcome from this deal.
The easiest thing for me to do is do nothing, and everyone would praise me for doing nothing. But we really believe in it, and time will tell if I'm right.